Okay, so this is on page 28 in your workbook. Okay, so on the study guide, they go through the parent graph of x squared. So remember, quadratic functions create parabolas. And so the parent function is without any shifts and any transformations. This is what it always looks like. So when x is -2, we know x is squared. So we plug in -2 for x and we go ahead and square it. So -2 times -2 gives us +4. So the first point would be -2, 4. So we go to -2, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our first point. -1 squared would be +1. So our next point is -1, 1. And then when x is 0, 0 squared is still 0. So this point would be 0, 0. 1 for x is 1 squared. 1 times 1 is just 1. So this next point is 1, 1. And then 2 squared. 2 times 2 is 4. So our last point is 2, 4. And there is our parabola. And then the study guide, like it was only like a minute, the video. And so I'm not totally sure what they wanted here, but when A is bigger, the parabola is stretched taller. So the standard form of a quadratic function is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, which I'm assuming they probably meant to show the part where they talk about this. And so A, it tells you the stretch. And then if it's positive, it tells us that the parabola opens up. If it's negative, it tells us that the parabola opens downward. So the bigger A is, so in this case, A is just 1. So if A becomes 2 or 2.5 or 3 or 4, anything above 1, then it's going to stretch taller. It gets taller and skinnier, goes up faster. And then when A is smaller, the parabola gets wider. So it opens, it takes longer for it to go up because you're multiplying by a smaller number, by a fraction. And so it's wider, doesn't go up as fast. And so this is the standard form of a quadratic function. And then there's what we call vertex form, which says y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And A still going to tell us the stretch and if it opens up or down. So if A is positive, it opens up. If A is negative, it's going to open down. And then vertex form also tells us the vertex. So the vertex is the highest or lowest point of the parabola. So if it's the highest, we call it the maximum. Or lowest, which we call a minimum. And so we can find the vertex when it's in vertex form. It is just h comma k. So to graph these, we need to identify the vertex, which is H, which is 3, and then K, which is -2. And then A is the number in front that it's multiplied, which in this case is 2. So we can plot the vertex first at 3, 1, 2, 3, -2. It doesn't line up perfectly. We'll pretend that the x-axis is on the line. And then since A is +2, we know it's opening up, and then it's greater than 1, which means it's going to go up a little bit quicker than our parent graph up here. So we're going to try to make it a little bit skinnier to show that A is 2. And that's just a rough sketch of what 2 times x minus 3 squared minus 2 would look like. The vertex of this one, we're going to do H and K. So remember, it's written in the form x minus H. So if it's x plus 4, that's x minus a -4. So really, you just have to flip the sign if that's an easier way for you to remember. So here, since it's -3, H is +3. And here, when it's +4, then your H is -4. Because remember, it's written x minus H. So we'd rewrite it as a minus, which means it's -4. And then K, which is -2. So we graph at -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, -2. That's our vertex. And then A is a -1. So it's not stretched because A is still 1, but it is a negative. So it's going to open down. So we just sketch it going down. And so in this case, our vertex is the highest point. And so this is called the maximum. On this graph, it's the lowest. Our parabola is never going to go below this point. So we call the vertex in this case a minimum. Any questions so far about quadratic functions, vertex form? Identifying the vertex. Okay. So let's move on over here. So after they talk about this, then they start to talk about the axis of symmetry. Which is a vertical line that goes through the vertex. And so to find the equation of the axis of symmetry, it's a vertical line. So it's always going to be at x equals, and we can find it in the equation by looking at, let's see, let me just write it up here again. Y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. You find it because remember the vertex, our x value is just h. And so the axis of symmetry is always going to be at x equals h. Whatever your h value is of your vertex, that's where your axis of symmetry is going to be. So we're going to skip looking at this dolphin graph and jump to, we want to label the vertex and draw the axis of symmetry on each graph below. So the vertex, remember, is the highest or the lowest point. So in this case, our vertex is right here. And sorry if it's blurry, it's at -1, 2, 3 for x, and then y is 0. And then the axis of symmetry, remember, it's the vertical line that goes through the vertex. So it cuts the parabola right in half and creates a mirror image. So this is a mirror image. The left side of our axis of symmetry is a mirror image of the right side. And so this line right here is at x equals, our axis of symmetry is at x equals -3. And see how that's the x value of our vertex. So your axis of symmetry is always at x equals whatever your x value is, or your h from the equation. Okay, go ahead and try these two, and then we'll go over them. All right, can someone tell me what was the vertex of our second graph? Did you guys get? You can send in the chat if you don't want to speak. Very good, Victoria. Thank you. It is 1, 3. And then we just draw our axis of symmetry through the vertex. And can someone tell me what the equation of our axis of symmetry is? X equals x is going through this line. It's going through where x equals 1. So our axis of symmetry is at x equals 1. Or you just look at the x value of your vertex and it will tell you. Yep, very good, Jasmine. Okay, what was the vertex of our third graph right here? I know it's hard to read. Yep, excellent, John. 6, 4, thank you. And then we have our axis of symmetry. Cutting it in half, which means the axis of symmetry, the equation would be x equals 6. Very good. That's our x value of our vertex. And so that is our axis of symmetry, x equals 6. Very good. All right, let's go ahead and flip to the next page. So now we are going to identify the vertex of these equations. So f of x equals 3 times x minus 5 squared plus 7. So remember, we said the vertex is hk. So you kind of flip the sign of h because it has to be with x minus the h, and it's just h. So in this case, x minus 5. So then h would be 5 and k would be 7. Okay, go ahead and try the next 4. Okay, Jasmine, can you tell me what the vertex is for the second one?
4.
2, 4. Excellent. H is 2, K is 4. John, can you tell me the vertex of the third one?
7, 3.
Excellent. H is 7, K is 3. Victoria, this one was a little bit harder because it's x plus 2. So what's the vertex?
-2, 19.
You got it. Very good. And then the last one would be 3, -5. Any questions on identifying the vertex when it's in vertex form? Okay, next we're going to match each quadratic function on the left with how the parabola opens and the coordinates of the vertex on the right. Use the sign of A to determine how the parabola opens and use HK as the vertex. So remember, so when we're looking at A, if A is positive, we know it opens up. When A is negative, we know it opens down. So go ahead and number these. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then A, B, C, D, E. All right, let's do the first one together. So f of x equals 2 times x minus 3 squared plus 12. So my vertex is going to be 3, 12. And A is a positive 2, so I know it's opening up. So it opens up, and then it has a vertex of 3, 12. So opens up and has a vertex of 3, 12. It looks like number 1 is D. Okay, any questions how to do these? We'll do one more. So for number 2, the vertex would be 3, -12. And A is -2. So we know that it's opening down. So opens down and has a vertex of 3, -12. That one's A. Okay, go ahead and try 3, 4, and 5. Izia, we are just finishing up the guided practice we did on page 28 and 29. So this is just on the bottom of page 29. And then we're going to work on the quiz here in just a sec. No problem. You can watch the recording for the beginning part that you missed. All right. Did you guys have enough time to do 3, 4, and 5? Okay, perfect. So Victoria, what did you get for 3? Was it B, C, or E?
I got B.
Very good. Yep. Our vertex is -3, -12, and it opens down. And so it is B. Excellent. John, what did you get for number 4? Is that C or E?
E.
Yes, E. Excellent. So our vertex is 3, -12, and then it opens up, which is E. Very good. And then by process of elimination, we know that 5 is C. And just for fun, A is negative, so we know it opens down. And then the vertex is 3, 12. And that's why it's C. All right, let's go ahead and do our quiz on 2.1. So go ahead if you want to jump on Canvas. We're going to do the 2.1 quiz. That's due tomorrow. You guys will be a day ahead of schedule. All right, let's see. All right, do you guys have 2.1 open or do you need more time? Isaiah, are you talking about the beginning of the session? I'll post the recording and then you can watch the whole thing. Well, from when I started recording, but I think I pretty much started at the beginning. All right. So what is the vertex of the quadratic function f of x equals 3 times x minus 5 squared plus 4? So remember the vertex we find using h and k. So what is h in number 1 and what is k? You can send it to me in the chat. Yep, John got it. So h is 5 and k is 4. So the vertex is 5, 4. Any questions on number 1? All right. Which of these is the equation of a graph in which the vertex is 4, 2 and a equals -2? So y equals a times x minus h plus k. So you can go ahead and plug in that info that they gave us. And then you'll have the equation. So tell me, is it my 1, 2, 3, or 4 when you plug it in?
It's number 2.
Number 2, John? So A is -2, that's right. And then H is 4, so it'd be X minus 4. And then K is +2, which John's right. That's my second answer. Excellent, John. Any questions on number 2? Oh, and I forgot my squared. That's an important part of a quadratic. It's only a quadratic function if it has a squared. X has to be squared. Or it won't be a parabola. Okay, find the axis of symmetry for the graph of the equation y equals 2 times x plus 5 squared. Send it to me in the chat. What would our axis of symmetry be? Yeah, I think they are scrambled, but just go ahead and find this question on your quiz. I deleted all the extra questions, so now there's just 5. So remember the axis of symmetry, we said you can always write it by writing x equals whatever your h is. So in this case, our h would be, since it's +5 though, our vertex would be -5, 0, because k, we could technically write it as +0. It looks like I wrote 2. That's a +0. And so the vertex is -5, 0. And so our axis of symmetry is going to be going through this at x equals -5. It's going to be going through our x value. So it would be x equals -5. So if we had like y equals -3 times x minus 2 squared plus 1, the axis of symmetry, our vertex is going to be at 2, 1, which means our axis of symmetry is going to be at x equals 2. And so we get that from the x value of our vertex, or our h. Do you guys understand number 3? Okay, number 4. Which is the equation of the axis of symmetry for the quadratic function g of x equals -2 times x minus 1 squared plus 0? Get another chance. Send me over what you get. Send it over to me privately. Let's make sure everyone understands how to find the axis of symmetry. Good, Jasmine. Yep. Isaiah, yep, you're right for number 5. And excellent, Victoria. Yes, so for number 4, our vertex would be at 1, 0, which means our axis of symmetry is at x equals 1. And very good, John. Yay, everyone got it. Perfect. Okay, and we'll end nice and easy. Which of the following is an example of a quadratic function? So a quadratic function has to have a squared term. So the variable has the highest power is a squared term. So it has to have an x squared, an a squared, a b squared, which means, like Isaiah said, it is 12x squared. So f of x equals 5x, that's going to be a straight line. That's a linear function. F of x equals 3x plus 7. That is a linear function because the highest power is the first power. X is to the first power, just like the first one. And then the last one, we have 5x to the third power. That's going to be a cubic function, which we'll get to later in the year. So yes, a quadratic function has an x squared as the highest power. Go ahead and submit your quiz. Any questions? Okay, you guys are free to go. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next Wednesday.
Bye.